Welcome back to Wine and Dine with Glow. This evening I'm making jambalaya. I'm going to give a shout out to my girl Kim Parham because she hooked me up to her recipe of jambalaya. I tweaked it a little, Kim, hope you don't mind. Jambalaya is a wonderful meal that goes back to my Louisiana roots. I grew up eating a lot of gumbo and shrimp creole and other things, but jambalaya is one of my go-to meals that I make when I have football games or the family's coming over or just a good Creole meal. That's why I make jambalaya. So I'm going to make it tonight and hopefully you'll enjoy the recipe and it's going to be easy to follow. Enjoy. As you know, I like to pair my food with various wines. This evening with the jambalaya, we're going to have a red Zinfandel. It's not too acidic. Good reds that would go with a jambalaya will be a Rioja, a Syrah or a Shiraz, or a red Zinfandel. For whites, you want to go with a Chardonnay, maybe a Cabernet or a Riesling. You could even go with a Prosecco. So those are the wines that I would pair with a jambalaya. The reason I'd select those wines is because they're not too acidic, because you've got the tomatoes, you've got the spices in the jambalaya, so you don't want the wine to overpower with the food. You just want it to pair very well. Look at that yummy color. Not too full-bodied though. Again, it's a red Zinfandel. Cheers. For the jambalaya ingredients, we have 1 tablespoon of thyme plus a bunch, 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne, 1½ teaspoon of allspice, 3 teaspoons of paprika, 1 tablespoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of gumbo filet powder, 1 large yellow onion diced, 1 green bell pepper seeded in dice, 4 garlic cloves minced, a 14-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, and I prefer San Marzano. They're the best. Salt and pepper to taste. Then we have andouille sausage or smoked turkey sausage. I prefer to use smoked turkey sausage and andouille sausage together. And I use chicken andouille, but you can certainly use pork. 1 pound of boneless, skinless chicken breasts or chicken thighs. I like to mix the two, and you cut them into pieces. 2 pounds of raw deveined shrimp, peeled, and also 1½ cups of uncooked rice, 3 cups of chicken broth. I like to make my own. We'll talk about that later. A dash of Worcestershire sauce, a dash of Louisiana hot sauce, and 1 bay leaf. And the last thing is olive oil, 3 tablespoons, and we'll do that when we're cooking our sausage. So I've got my fire going because I'm going to saute and cook my sausage. I take 3 tablespoons of cooking oil. I prefer to use olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to put in my sausage. And we're going to brown it. We're going to brown it so it gets a little crispy. It tastes better when it has a little crisp to it as opposed to halfway cooked, if you will. I'm going to add a little more here. And we're just going to let that cook for a little bit till it's all brown. Oh my goodness, that sausage smells so good. All right, now that I've got all of my sausage nice and brown and crispy, I'm going to add my chicken. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the chicken. This chicken I prepared myself by boiling it. And I boiled it and made chicken broth with it. I like to use homemade chicken broth. And the reason being is because you can control the salt, you can control the seasoning, and it tastes to me so much better than store-bought. But you can go to the store and get it because this is easy for everyone, right? You can even use a pre-cooked chicken, maybe one that you bought at the store that was roasted, whatever you like. But again, people ask me about tricks and why they like my food. It's because I do everything from scratch. So again, I make my own chicken broth. So now I'm mixing the sausage with the chicken, and my chicken's already been seasoned because I made the chicken broth. Now that that's all done, I'm going to pour it in my pan and set it aside. And this is the pan that I'm going to make the jambalaya in. So we've set aside our chicken and our sausage in the pan that we're actually going to cook the jambalaya in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make the onions and the garlic and the green pepper. Usually in traditional Louisiana cooking, you've got the trinity. And the trinity is onions, garlic, and celery. I'm not using celery here. That's just because I don't like celery in my jambalaya. A lot of people like that. They like to add okra as well, and that's fine. It just depends on your taste. I don't like it in mine, so I'm not using it. So I'm just going to add a little olive oil here to my pan. I'm going to put in my green pepper. I'm going to put in my onion. And we're just going to cook that down so that it becomes a little translucent. We're not going to cook it fully. We don't want it too soft because it's going to cook in the sauce. All right, so we're just going to cook that a little bit. As our green pepper and onions are cooking, we're going to now add the garlic. You want to add the garlic later because you don't want to overcook the garlic. You don't want burnt garlic. That's not very good. So we mix that in. And again, you don't want to overcook these seasonings because they're going to cook in your mixture. I'm going to tell you a little bit about another secret and a tip that I usually use. When I do jambalaya or gumbo, I usually marinate my shrimp. I marinate my shrimp in olive oil and garlic and a little salt. I do it the morning of, a couple of hours before. I make my recipe and I cook. It gives the shrimp a little flavor. So I do have shrimp that I'm going to be using that I prepared that way. So that's another tip for you. So once you've cooked your green pepper, onions, and garlic for about 5 to 7 minutes, then we can add it to our pot with the sausage and the chicken. Now that I've transferred the onion and the green pepper and garlic over to the sausage and the chicken, I'm just going to give it a little stir and make sure that our fire is on just a little simmer. We're going to take our can of San Marzano tomatoes, chopped tomatoes. We're going to add that in there. We're going to give that a little stir too. And then I'm going to throw in all of my seasonings that we had. So the last time that I talked to you guys, I mentioned that I was going to give you a little information, a little background on what sealed the deal with Victor. It was my chicken wings. Yeah, baked chicken wings. And I had this little rub that I make. And he said that he loved it. It was quite good. So that's one thing that I'll make for you at some point. But it was really my chicken wings. And I also have another thing to say. Jambalaya that I'm making now, the night that he proposed to me, I made jambalaya. We were at a New Year's Eve party, and I brought that to the party. So there you go. 2 wonderful stories about our love life. All right, I'm going to continue adding my seasonings here. And I'm going to give it a little stir. And we're going to let that cook down a little. And I'm also going to pour in our chicken broth. Pouring in our chicken broth. And that was 3 cups. So we're going to mix this all together. I add a bay leaf. Another tip. Again, I like food with a lot of flavor. So I take a bunch of fresh thyme. I take a piece of string. I tie it all together and I drop it in. And it adds additional flavor. Now you haven't seen me add much salt to this because I season my chicken broth with salt. So as this simmers for about 20 minutes, I'm going to come back and taste it and see if I need salt. I'm going to add a little pepper to it right now though. You can add about a teaspoon or pepper to your taste. And then we also talked about the Louisiana hot sauce and the Worcestershire sauce. I'm just going to give like half a teaspoon, a couple of dashes of that. And here are a couple of dashes of the Louisiana hot sauce. And there you have it. That is the base of our jambalaya. So we're going to let that simmer for about 20 minutes, and then we'll come back. So my sauce has been simmering for 20 minutes. And I have another thing to say. Do you see this Dutch oven that I have here? Whenever I make something in this, Victor always says it's going to be good whenever you pull that out. So ladies, a way to a man's heart, again, is with food. So remember that. Maybe you'll pick up some of my recipes and it can work for you. All right, we have this simmering. Right now we're going to add the rice. But before we do that, I'm going to take out, remember that bunch of thyme that I put in there for extra flavoring? I'm going to take that out, okay? I'm going to stir one more time, and we're going to put in our rice. We're going to mix that all together. And that's going to simmer for 20 to 25 minutes. And then we're going to have a yummy, delish, super D pot of jambalaya. So it's been 20 minutes, and I'm checking in on the jambalaya. I'm actually going to taste it. Oh my goodness, it is fabulous. I think I need just a little bit of salt, just a pinch. The last thing I'm going to add is my shrimp. Remember, I marinated my shrimp in olive oil and garlic powder just to give it some flavor. I'm going to put my shrimp in. I'm going to mix my shrimp around. Shrimp only takes 5 to 7 minutes to cook, so you want to pay attention. It's going to turn pink. You don't want to overcook it. So I'm just going to mix it in here. I'm going to keep the fire on, the little simmer, as low as you can get. I'm going to put the top on for 5 to 6 minutes, and then it's going to be done. It tastes really good, you guys. I can't wait for you to have this at home. Also, remember, again, use the cayenne to your taste. So we're going to let this cook for 5 to 6 minutes one more time, and then it should be all done. So there you have it. We've got jambalaya. I have garnished it with some green onions as well as some parsley. From our house to yours, laissez les bons temps rouler. I'd like to say that in good spirits. That means let the good times roll. We hope to get back there someday soon. Enjoy, everyone, and be safe and healthy.